Okay, we're recording. So welcome everyone. This is Chromebook Accessibility for All. You know, as people join us, we are going to let them in, but we're going to get started. The session sign in for people one more time is in the chat. Also, please introduce yourself in the chat. And this is Hillary and I. My name's Catherine. I am a STEM educator and instructional designer. I'm the founder of EduChange, and we're supporting teachers and students in Salinas this fall. So we just are excited to be with you in collaboration. And I'm going to let Hillary introduce herself. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. Well, good morning in California. Good afternoon where I'm at. My name is Hillary Goldthwait-Fowles. I am just so honored to be with you all this afternoon and teaching something and showing you the power of your Chromebooks that have features already built in. I have been working with Catherine for a couple of years now, consulting on assistive technology, inclusive design, universal design for learning and accessibility, so that you all are empowered to have everything that you need to do what you need to do. And just a reminder that the session materials will be shared with you at a later time. We want you to focus on live tutorials. We'll be doing a lot of live, how to turn on features, how to turn off features, and giving you a moment or two to actually activate those yourselves. You will have access to a bunch of resources, including this recording afterwards, which we'll talk about. But I believe full-heartedly that we should be empowering teachers more, not putting more on your plate, but giving you the tools that you need when you need it and giving you the support that you need. So you have somebody that you can go to if you have any questions, but to show you that there are some very powerful things in your Chromebook that can work not just for you, but for all of your learners. And I really think that it's everybody's job to find their just right tools to access the text on websites, documents, to look at the different features of your Chromebook and to figure out which ones there are. And as I'm screen sharing and demonstrating, I'd like you to kind of put in your head, what do I have turned on for accessibility features? Because I have my own needs and challenges and preferences. And so that's kind of started me on this journey. And I really believe that it's our job collectively to make learning accessible. This doesn't diminish rigor. It doesn't diminish relevancy. It removes barriers that may be either systemic or lack of a fund of knowledge or how we were trained or how we were prepared to teach to a narrow margin of kids. What we want to do is really embrace that variability. And my job today with you is to take you on a little journey to provide you with the latest in assistive and inclusive technology. And our Chromebooks are jam-packed with that. So we can go right on to the next. Catherine, our goals, I talked a little bit about this, but today's goals are to have you articulate answers to the following questions. Why assistive technology for all? But also, why in my class? I notice some people are in film or in gym class or in a non-academic place, but it's in everywhere. And so some of these features might help you as you work or might help a student if you're accessing a different module or something. So just don't, I've been a special educator for 26 years, and I would sit in plenty of trainings go, I don't think this is relevant for me, and I have to modify it to meet my students' needs. So what I'm hoping is that if that's you and if you're feeling that way, please let me know and I will be happy to adjust and give you some context and ask you to tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do so that you can make those connections to something that you might be doing in your setting. The other goal today is to also empower you to leave our session knowing how to use at least one Chromebook accessibility feature to help increase learner access to digital content. As you know, in our world, we're meeting remotely. I'm in Maine and you're out in California, and this training is recorded, so you'll have access to it. There are resources, they're all online. We have to make sure that they're accessible linguistically, culturally, ability-wise, and there are lots of features on our devices to get into that. So we can go on to the next. Some of you might be wondering, why do we even need to talk about assistive technology? why do we even need it? And right now I'm wearing a low-tech piece of assistive technology. I am also an instructional designer by trade. I work at the Kennedy Krieger Institute by day and do inclusive learning and assistive technology consulting. And I'm at a screen a lot. So I need to wear glasses that help me to see my screen better, but also to reduce some of the blue light in addition to some of the features I'm going to show you today. So that's a lower tech, but we're going to go over the higher tech. Why does this? This helps me to be more independent. I'm not squinting, I don't have headache. And it helps to, for our learners, promote that same level of independence and agency for them, that they have a voice and that you're going to have an opportunity to explore today. And then maybe you take that and model that for your kids, because now we're passing that fund of knowledge on to you. We're also honoring individuals with disabilities and variability by providing these supports first, right out of the gate. We're not going to wait. We're not going to hide these somewhere and go, oh, that's only for so-and-so. These are supports that benefit everybody. It destigmatizes and normalizes the use of assistive and inclusive technology. So it's use it as needed when needed for all learners. At some point or another, everybody needs a hand, right? Some days I need more help than others. And some days, I know what I know, and some days I don't. So we're all variable. Some days I'm more prepared and I'm on my A game and I'm ready to go. And some days I'm not feeling it. I'm tired, I'm cranky. Maybe something yucky happened to me, and you do your best to leave things at the door, but well, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Or sometimes my display is not the right size, or I can't see something, or I'm having a hard time focusing. So closed captioning might help me improve focus, or maybe I need a line focus. So we're going to go over those things, and you can think about for your experience what that's like, but then also take that leap and what would this be like in your environment for your learners to have access to these tools and know the purpose, the function, the when, the who, what, when, where, why, and how these features work and when you should use them. And they're not something that we should gatekeep. We need to open those doors up so that you understand the purpose and the why, because it does open the door for somebody who might be different than what I am or what you are, and say, you're welcome here, you belong here. And I'm going to make sure that you have the supports that you need so that you can do the things that you need to do. A lot of times in classrooms when I taught and did assistive technology, there'd be one or two that might use some of these features, and they weren't available to everybody else. And that created stigma that made them feel different. It made them feel deficient. And I had a lot of conversations with kids about that. And it was, when it's just there, and I would do whole class lessons and teach everybody how to use those tools, it became more fun, more engaging, and that it centered the person with the which is a little flip. It centered somebody that might be different instead, and we just made it part of the everyday experience. Yes, we documented them in the IEP as required by law for those kids that definitely needed it to access FAPE, but we made them more universally accessible. So it's there. Like, I have arthritis, my hands get tired from typing, so I use some of the accessibility features based on my need. Why wouldn't I do the same thing for my learners? So I'd like you to think about that. Like, you might need something different. Like, some of you have your cameras off right now because maybe you just don't want to be on, or maybe you're working on something else and that's totally fine too. Or you just want to chill and you're tired of looking at a screen and you're listening and you have the closed captions on in Google Meet. Any of those options are fine. You have to do what you need to do when you need to do it and create that safe environment for kids. And so technology is kind of that way that I come at those things. So we can go on to the next slide, because I want to get into actually showing you some different things. But why in your class? Why do we have to do that?
So, one of the things we can talk about too is when students personalize the way they access diverse texts. So we're secondary schools, we use a lot of different texts. They gain confidence in their ability to learn. So if they feel like they are in control of their own device, that actually gives them confidence as students and learners. And that's super important. When they feel like, the computer is not theirs to wield, but somehow has power over them, that is not great. So one of the things to consider, and maybe you can type your thoughts in the chat, all technology is assistive. All technology. It's designed to assist humans. That is what it is. Anything from the wheel to an electronic balance to this computer that you're using today. So if you look at it like that, then why wouldn't we permit all students to personalize and learn how to personalize their own devices? And that's sort of the mindset that we come at in all secondary classes, no matter what you teach. Another thing I want you to think a little bit about, and again, feel free to type thoughts in the chat as we go. Assistive technology unblocks what we call the disciplinary literacy pathway. And what we mean here is that you have access that you need to unblock. If you do not unblock the access to begin with, you cannot have students consume texts, view them, read them, listen to them, whatever. Okay, first is access. That will unblock the pathway to allowing them to cognitively grapple with the text itself. And then the great part of the disciplinary literacy pathway is text production. So you can think of 3 different access points. There's tangible access, which is really sort of, the giving a digital device and fast, reliable internet connectivity. Everyone in this country is still working to make sure that everyone has those things. We're not there yet, we're getting there. The cognitive access is where we are today, which is the inclusive technology, training, and tools that they need and you need, as well as content area literacy support. And then the cultural access, which is what you do to include diverse genres, authors, contexts, and realia that comprise your course content. So this is a blog post. I'll type it in chat a little bit later, but you can definitely see more of these things represented. And I'm going to post a folder for you now in the chat. So this folder, AT STEM Tech, is going to have some of these resources, and that is also where the recording and everything will live later. So if you go to that link, you'll see these images, and those are yours to keep. And we're going to keep going into the live demos. But this is really a whole field of how we get to disciplinary literacy, and it is part of equity. That is at the center, and that's why we're here in schools. All right, I'll give it back to you, Hillary.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Those were such beautiful points that you made, and why we're here. So as I'm talking, I'd like you to think a little bit about your Chromebooks and your Friends of Knowledge, and feel free to put in the chat or keep to yourself a little self-rating of your level of understanding of the accessibility features of your device. 0 is I don't have any idea. 4 is I know it all. I'm good, but I just want to be here anyway and see what you got. 1, 2, or 3 are somewhere in between. So you can feel free to keep that to yourself or post in the chat your self-rating. We're going to come back to this after that. I'm going to show you, I see a lot of variability, and that's wonderful. Any of this is okay. We've got like kind of, sort of, kindas, to I have not it, I don't know anything, to I know a little bit, to I know a bit. And I think that's all wonderful. Hopefully by the end of this, we'll bump those numbers up. So before we leave today, I'm going to have you do this again to see if there's something you might have picked up after this, or maybe you rate yourself after you watch the recording again, because sometimes it needs more than one exposure to get into our brains. We need time to actually take what you're learning today and let it settle and let it sit, let it marinate. you know, so that you can integrate it into your system and into your neural network and into your brain so that you can apply it. And that's my bigger goal for you, is that you actually take this and integrate and apply it, not just for you, but for your learners. And so we're going to look at that kind of rating. So thank you for doing that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to access them. I'm going to show you how to keep them easily accessible on your Chromebooks, how to turn certain features on and off, and how to use them. We're going to, I'm literal. And I think sometimes when I've done these trainings, the best way to do it is to actually go through exactly how it's laid out on your Chromebook and show you those. And then I'm also going to show you how to change the translation, how to change the language of your device as well, because some of your learners, I'm of the understanding, are not native English speakers. And that's a barrier when you have a Chromebook that's not in your native language, especially if you've literally come right from Mexico or another country. And English is not, you don't speak English, it's not your native language. It's a way to honor your learners and to provide that scaffold until they become a little bit more proficient in their native language as well. So we can go to the next slide, Catherine, and I'll talk about the first couple features. First, I'm going to show you how to turn them on and where to look for them. We're going to go over Chromebox, which is your Chrome screen reader, select to speak, which is how to make text be read to you with words highlighted, and then how to change voices. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to hop off, Catherine, and I'm going to share my screen. And I'm actually going to show you my whole entire screen. So don't mind me for a moment when I see all of you on the meet. But what I want to do is I want to point out, I don't know if you can see in the bottom right corner where all my notifications are, where the time is, this little tray has sometimes, you probably already know this, but your settings is your gear here. So there's different options that you can do. So we're going to go to our settings, and I want to point out something first. There's two ways to access, lots of ways in Google, but you can search or you can toggle advanced. Now, this is a bugaboo I have with Google, that accessibility settings should be on the side here. In the Apple world, they're right on the side, and ease of access in Microsoft, but I have to either search for my accessibility or I have to scroll all the way down to advanced for accessibility. I can search for it and it'll find it, or I have to scroll. I have this toggled on to show accessibility options in the system menu. So I'm going to show you my system menu here. This is my little tray. If you notice, I now have this here. It's turned on. But when I go to turn it off, it's there still because it'll just do that. So because I had it turned on by default, because I always want to show that. To manage our features, you just go to enable those features. So I said we're going to do Chromebox, select to speak, and text to speech. If you notice, that's the first category. So I'm going to go through these, some a little bit more quickly than others, but I just want you to get a feel. If you notice, Chromebox is not turned on. If I do turn it on, it's going to get a little funky. So watch what happens when I toggle this on. I don't know if you can.
Chromebox spoken feedback is ready. Settings, manage accessibility features.
Now there's a whole list of settings and a tutorial.
Open Chromebox tutorial. Chromebox tutorial. Heading 1. Press search plus right arrow or search plus left arrow to browse topics. Quick orientation. Essential keys. Navigation. Link.
I'm using
Press search plus space to activate.
I'm using my tab key to navigate that, but I can also use mouse. But to somebody who is blind or visually impaired, they would be using the keyboard navigation.
Open Chromebox tutorial. Link. Settings.
I'm going to shut that off while we're talking, because what that does is it reads the whole screen. So a screen reader reads the whole entire screen, what's on it and what it says. So it's really important for content to have that coding in the background so it can be read to. if you have a picture or something and it says image and you don't give the context, it's inaccessible to someone who's blind or visually impaired who is using this type of technology. I'm just showing you that there is a built-in screen reader in your Chromebooks. I'm not a ginormous fan of it. They are making improvements, but typically teachers of the visually impaired will recommend a different device with a different screen reader that's a little more robust and a little more user-friendly with better voice settings, which you can go in and customize. The other setting I want to show you that's really important is enabling select to speak. I do have it turned on. Let me show you it's not on, but when I turn it on, if you notice in the tray in the bottom, there's this little button here that looks like a speaker with a microphone. I can change my settings or the text to speech voices. So I'm going to open my settings and select to speak. Now, if you notice, the first thing, my device language is set to English. But I can change it if I have someone who's not native English speaking. Maybe I want to change it to Spanish. Or maybe I want to change it to Italian or Japanese, but you can change that device language. Now I have some preferred voices and I just toggle the little right arrow to get different voices. They have a bunch of different voices. Notice they have Spanish voices, French, Arabic, Lithuanian, Polish. These are e-speak. I tend to prefer English 4, and you can now toggle a new thing called use a natural voice when the device is online. And if I click the play button.
Hi there, I'm your text-to-speech voice.
I can change this to maybe I want.
Hi there, I'm your text-to-speech voice.
And what I would encourage you all to
Hi
do.
there, I'm your text-to-speech voice.
Oh, he's kind of nice.
Hi there, I'm your text-to-speech voice.
I don't know, I kind of like this guy here.
Hi there, I'm your text-to-speech
I don't know,
voice.
they should get James Earl Jones or something like that to narrate that, because I would be paying attention. I have noticed in my experience of working with kids with dyslexia and learning disabilities, there is an interesting phenomenon where their preference for text-to-speech voice is actually British or Australian. And I've asked, why is that? They find it more engaging and interesting, and they understand it better, which I find fascinating. So I would encourage you all to go in and play with these text-to-speech voices and find the ones that you like, that work for you. And I would do the same thing with your learners. There's also a highlighting option. So I can change my highlight options where I can have background content shaded. I have the navigation controls turned on, or I can have the highlights as the word is spoken. So that's how we turn those on. How it works though, is if I'm actually in a new tab. Let's say I'm going to, like say Newslia, for example. I know they have a built-in engine, but I just want to demonstrate a little bit of text here for you. So if I turn on select to speak here, what I do is I can highlight what I want read. Notice that box. And I want to use the natural voice because I'm online.
A relevant and engaging instructional content platform designed to complement your ELA, social studies, and science curriculum.
Is it perfect? No, because it said ELA, but if that had periods, it would say ELA. So it's being a little literal when it reads. What I wanted to show you too is you can adjust the speed. So there are some individuals sometimes with dyslexia or who are blind or visual that read at faster rates. It increases their fluency. So listen.
Curriculum. New social studies content, made just for Maine.
So that is select to speak in a nutshell. I really, really like that feature as well. So let me go back to my select to speak settings we opened. We also customized. There's 2 places to customize your text to speech. So you've got your overall. It's the same thing. It's just in a different location, but I can change the rate, I can change the pitch, and I can change the volume in both the select to speak settings itself or just the general text to speech voice settings. They do work together. The thing about Google I've learned that can be confusing for people sometimes is that there's more than one way to access a feature, and that's okay. You're going to get the same impact or similar effect for that.
Hillary, I have a question from Steve.
Yes,
He
Steve.
asks, will text-to-speech read PDFs?
Depends on how the PDF is original. Yes, but. So this is where that accessibility piece comes in. If it's a PDF that you have taken a photocopy of a book and scanned it in a copier, it will not read it. It reads it as a picture. If it's a PDF that a textbook publisher made or someone for some of the EduChange materials, the answer is yes, absolutely it will read. There are some other add-ons and extensions that will, but the bigger part is that the back end, the way that PDF was made has to be accessible first before it can use any type of assistive technology, whether it's text-to-speech or screen readers. So I know it's a little complicated of an answer, but I didn't want to just give you a flat out yes. It depends. And the only way to really figure that out is to test it. There are some other tools and apps that will help make PDFs more accessible. And I'm happy to, if that's something that's coming up, I'm happy to help with that as well for that purpose. But text-to-speech will read Google Docs, websites, and accessible PDFs. So now we've got displays. So we're going to go over high contrast, the different magnification options, your display device settings. So sometimes just even customizing your display helps improve accessibility, and some appearance settings. And I'm going to show you some of mine too. I don't know. There we go. So now I'm back in my settings. And if you remember, I've accessed it right here or in my settings. So when I have it in my dock, I can turn all the features that I want on or off from the accessibility right in the menu. But for today, I want to show you how it looks in your system settings so you know what's available to you. High contrast is for people who need that contrast. So people with visual impairments might need contrast that looks a little something like this, which is a little wonky for some people, like that don't need that support, but there are people that do. So it could just turn that on or off. Magnification. So it gives you some instructions. Press Control Search M to turn the magnifier on or off when I have it toggled on, and then Control Alt Arrow to move around. So if I turn this on, notice it's magnified, right? But when I do Control Alt Arrow, it's now acting, and I'm using my arrow keys to toggle up and down. So this is really good for someone with who has significant visual access needs and needs this magnification support. So this magnifies the whole screen. And I don't know if any of you have seen those portable magnifiers with a tray that has a monitor on it. It behaves similarly to that. It's just on your device. So now I can see my icons a little better. I can see settings a little bit better. And it takes a little bit of training, not gonna lie. Took me a minute to get that the way that I wanted to do that. And I had to practice a couple times. So you have to do that with your kids too. A docked magnifier is a little different. So the full screen magnifies the whole screen. The docked one is where you're using your mouse and trackpad and you have a couple of lines of text. So you can actually see that page. That's worked for me for kids that just need a different level of visual access support. they need maybe just a line or two. They don't need the whole entire, screen magnified. Another workaround that I don't know, are your Chromebooks for your kids, are they touchscreen capable? Do you know if they have touchscreen? Okay, I see head shaking no, so I'm not going to even show that. My former district had touchscreen Chromebooks, so we did the pinch and zoom, so that was very helpful in using that to zoom. So we have some variability. So for those that do have it, it's just like on a tablet. Like you can use your fingers to pinch and zoom and to move that. So your hands become your own magnification. But if you have motor challenges or your hands aren't working great, you can use that full screen magnifier. So display device settings, this can also help change your appearance. So I have mine set, it was by default set way down here. It's too small for me, but I can make it even bigger so that my display size is bigger or smaller, and that helps with my visual access needs. Another feature that I like to use, and this does help if you're getting headaches on your Chromebook and blue light glasses are not enough for you, night light works very, very well. So I have mine on, but I can change it so that it's a little warmer, which is more orange or more blue. And the thing for me is, does it make me want to squint when I look at it with nightlight on or in a cooler? This makes me just kind of go, but for some people, they really like that. Not me. I kind of like it a little somewhere in between. It helps with that, your eyes and squinting and just that light coming at you all the time. It's great to have it. You can schedule it. So I can have it set to sunrise custom, or I'm not scheduling it and I just have it on all the time, which I tend to do for me because I'm on my computer a lot. This has worked really well for kids. Before blue light glasses were a thing, I was using this with kids who had visual prescriptions for their doctor or notes from the doctor, or even just they were getting headaches from being on their Chromebook to eliminate some of that blue light. So that's called nightlight. And it does show up on your little dock here. If you can see this, it's on. So I know that it's right there for me. And then the other thing I want to show you related to display are general appearance settings. These are good settings. So these are like your themes. What I want to show you for people that are like me, who, as you get older, why is the font getting smaller as I get older? I don't know. Normally, by default, it's set to medium. And sometimes it's set to very small, which mine won't do because it goes, no, Hillary, you're not doing that. I have mine set to very large. But what I can also do here is I can customize my fonts. This is important because it allows or disallows for minimum font sizes. So when I click on this arrow here to customize my font, my minimum font size is set to 24. Actually, it's 18, but my font size in general is 24 because that's my visual access need. Minimum font size means nothing's going to come to me under 18 point unless, in an email or whatever. And then I have the standard fonts, and I can change these standard fonts or the sans serif font or a fixed width font. So I can change that. There's a ton of fonts here. But what this does is it helps with kids who have visual access or just kids who might be struggling with reading to have more font, have more space with that. And then I can zoom my page in and out. It's usually set. That's usually how it is by default. I have mine just a tiny bit bigger. The thing to note is that the bigger you get, you're going to lose what's called real estate. So if I go to like 200, if you notice, I'm losing some screen real estate. So I don't want to do that. That's where the magnifier comes in, so that I can actually see my screen a little bit better. So the next series we're going to go through now is your keyboard and your text input. And we've got sticky keys, some on-screen keyboard, system dictation, and some highlighting, navigating. And I'm going to just show you a couple of things really quick. But the bigger ones I want to share with you. So sticky keys is, you know, when you have to do various key commands like Control Alt Delete or Control Shift Backspace, you've got more than one key. Well, sticky keys, when I turn this on, if I press the Shift, the Control key, notice on the top left here, it's stuck, it's on. So if I have to do multiple keyboard commands, now Control Alt is on. To turn that off, I press it again and again to turn that off. When it's underlined, it's highlighted. So that performs that shortcut by typing them sequentially, but it holds that. So like when you have to hold the Shift key to make a capital letter, and I might have a motor challenge, that works really well. I press the Shift key once and I can type the letter that I want and it goes away. So that's sticky keys. There is an on-screen keyboard. And then if you notice, the keyboard icon pops up in the corner and you have your on-screen keyboard. This is actually helpful for visual access for kids who might have challenges looking vertically and horizontally while they're typing. They can just look right here. But because mine is a touchscreen Chromebook, I actually can write and I can edit text and I can do all kinds of things with this on-screen keyboard. I can open some tabs. I can change the settings. I can have different input methods in my keyboard. Let me make this bigger. Sometimes the window gets funny. So I can change these. Spell check languages. Oh, look, I can change that here. But in the inputs and keyboards, I can show you like different keyboard input methods and things like that. Since my Chromebook's a touchscreen and I have an on-screen keyboard, I can actually use my fingers to type, and I have voice typing or dictation that's right here. Very similar to what you would have like on iOS for your keyboard. So that's how you would enable that on-screen keyboard. Let me get back to my managing accessibility features. So we're back on here. I'm going to turn off my on-screen keyboard. Now, enabling dictation, that is voice typing. What this does is it allows you to type with your voice across all of your Google apps. So if you're in Google Slides, if you're in Gmail, if you're in a Google Form or a Google Sheet or someplace where there isn't a microphone icon, like in Google Docs, you have voice typing, or when you're actually in Google itself, there's a microphone here. So I can actually use my voice to search for something as well. So this is the system dictation that's right here for you. So let me turn this back on. And I can change the language. So if I have someone who's non-native English speaking, I can change that language. Couple of highlighting the focus. It just kind of changes the focus. But I have this, highlight the text caret when it appears or moves. So I have this little red thing. I can navigate pages with a cursor. And then if I have switches, so if I need another access method, like using a touchpad or using a mouse isn't doable, or using the keyboard, I can turn on switch access and I can program that. And so now kids with complex disabilities can actually access their Chromebook. And there are some tutorials here. And this is where your keyboard device settings are. Top row keys can switch so that they're function keys. I can have auto repeats. I can view all of my shortcuts here, and I can change, like I showed you before, I can change my inputs, my spelling, my grammar check. I can customize. I can add a language to my spelling and grammar check, so it will check it in a language other than English. So I did mention that. I would show you some places where you can change language there. Highlighting the mouse cursor when it's moving. This is this red highlighting the mouse cursor. And I tend to do that just for attention. And because I have a visual impairment, it helps me to kind of stay focused on where I'm at. I can also open my specific mouse and touchpad settings. So I have tap to click open, so I can tap. I don't like tap dragging. It doesn't work for me. And I can change the speed of my touchpad. I can make it faster. I can make it really fast if I want, or I can slow it down. So notice it's a lot slower. So someone who has motor challenge, sometimes slower is a little bit better, and sometimes fast is just better just because. And I can also enable reverse scrolling as well. And these are general, but they are important for accessibility in a general sense. And I know that in this short amount of time, there is a lot of information coming at you. So we've done all of those mouse and touchpad settings. I'm going to show you, this is some of my favorite, captioning, how to turn on live captioning on your device. So any video or audio that's played will use that live captioning, and then mono audio, and then playing the sound on startup. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I am now towards the bottom part of my accessibility features. Captions is great. So I'm going to toggle to the right here. Live caption. You want to turn this on. I have it off. It automatically creates captions for media in the Chrome browser. They're only available in English at the moment, but I know that there are plans for it to be in different languages. The great part is that any audio and captions are processed locally, so they're not going somewhere and they're not, you know, getting into your system. So I'm going to turn this on for a minute. And what will happen, like if I'm watching a video that doesn't have captions, it will float over this. I'm going to show you this in just a second. There are some caption preferences, so I can caption customize. Again, we talked about personalization and customizing the experience for variability earlier. So I can change my text size. I can change my font. So for somebody that might just like them for focus and they have dyslexia, I might want a serif-based font, or maybe I just do something that I like. Maybe I just want Arial, or maybe I want to go back to the default because it's pretty serify. I can change the color of the text. So maybe I need that magnification, so I want yellow on black. But maybe I just like some funny colors, or maybe I'm just going to keep them white on black. And I'm going to keep the text, because if I have semi-transparent, if you notice, and I go transparent, you can't really see them. So I keep them opaque. I can shadow these. I can drop shadow. I can also change the background color if I want. And I can also reverse that and change the opacity so that the box shadow is a little more or less transparent. And I saw there was something in the chat. So
Yeah, we have a question from Daisy who asked.
Oh, well, okay. So typically, oh, look at that. The live, do you see this? The live captioning. So Catherine, can you unmute yourself for a second and talk really quick?
Yes, hello everyone. We are here together today, and it's nice to be with you to collaborate.
So isn't that cool? The live caption, I guess we have captioning in Google Meet, but that live captioning works for any audio that's being played on your device. To answer your question, the font that I tend to gravitate towards is called Lexend. I'm going to put it in the chat for you. And any serif-based font. So
Hillary, was Lexend in those font choices in Chromebook?
yes, not by, so here's an interesting question. I'm glad you said that. Appears in like Google Docs, Google Slides. It is not a default device font. Isn't that interesting? So it appears in the little Google apps like Sheets, Slides, Creation apps, but not in the general apps. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, that is
Maybe
actually.
someday they'll change that. Right. So Catherine, we're going to go back to our slide deck. We can actually show them what Lexend fonts are because our slides are in Lexend as well. And for me, I'm very, 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 very myopic. And so for me, it makes, and I have a pretty significant astigmatism and it comes and goes. For me, Lexend makes the font and the display crisper, where I'm not struggling or straining or squinting as much to read. So for someone with dyslexia, that kind of does a similar thing where it's taking that visual fatigue out of the equation. There are some individuals that have visual fatigue just by looking at something. So what you're seeing on the slide is Lexend. You can go to the next slide because our time's wrapping. So, oh, here's the kit and caboodle. I know I showed you a couple of features where you can change the device language, or you can change the input language, or you can change the text-to-speech language or the voice typing language so that it's actually honoring people who are non-Anglo native English speakers like myself. Maybe you have a French accent or Spanish accent. It will pick that up and pick up your voice up well, or it will read in that dialect that you want it to. But if I want to change my whole entire device, that it's not English, and how to change it back, this is what we're going to do now, so that you can actually see, how do I change my device to something other than English? So I'm going to look in my device, I'm going to look in my settings, and I'm going to go to languages. I just searched languages. It's right, it's under advanced. Notice device language is set to English. I can also set my preferred languages with our web browser. So I can add Spanish, but notice, this is what I love. There are variations of Spanish based on the region that somebody is from. Maybe it's United States, maybe it's Colombia, Mexico, Chile, or Spain. I can change that. And I can add that as a language to my website. So it will use that for translating pages and quick answers. So it's in there. But if I want to change my overall device language, and I want to change it to, and I'm not going to do this because what it will do when I confirm and restart, it's going to kick me out. What it will do is then everything that you see here, everything from the device will be in that language. Your Google account language, I can manage my Google account language. I don't know if that's blocked by IT. Sometimes it is. Every district's a little different, but I of the understanding, I think this is open. So I can manage my language going into my Google account settings. So you as a teacher might be able to do this, but I don't know necessarily on the student level if that's allowed. But I can change, I can translate that very, very simply.
Carolyn had a question here, and Carolyn, I actually talked to Alberto about this. Your IT folks say that students should be able to use all of these personal Chromebook accessibility features themselves. So you and they in the classroom in the beginning of the school year can work together. It's definitely probably worth a day in class, everyone personalizing their Chromebook. I think it's time well spent, and they tell me that you can. Now,
Yeah,
I know we have teachers smiling, like I know what they tell us, but you know, you should be able to.
We did ask that question, so hopefully, but the accessibility settings, especially in changing the language, yes. And I know in my former district that was open, so we could do that, and I trained teachers how to do it. and ed techs that were working with kids who were non-native English speakers on how to do it. I made tutorials and stuff so that they were quickly an assistive technology Google Classroom where I had information for people and they could join the classroom and access that information so that they could get it. And I would, if they would ask me the question via email, I'd point them right back to that video resource in that classroom so they had it right in that moment and they could work with their kid. Or I hopped on a meet with them and did that as well. But I agree, Catherine, it's such a great personalized experience. It is worth it to spend your time when you get your Chromebooks with your kids, to spend the time going through these features and settings so that they have the opportunity to customize and personalize the experience for them as well, and that they understand why these features matter and that they can access them in different ways.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Most of our worksheets are transitioned in through Cami. And so teaching summer school, I had many students, and most of my students are through general ed. I'm going to have a combination of EL students. And so I witnessed a lot of my students doing translation themselves. So what I'm wondering, through what you just taught us, what I'm concerned with when you talked about the PDF not translating as well, because I saw them take the sheets and take it and put it in Google Translation. So I'm wondering if they would be able to do the accessibility through a Cami sheet through the PDF. I know you're just saying just try it, but I'm wondering if you've had any luck with any of the other sheets or applications that you shared with us.
Well, those are what so today was basically what's baked into your device.
Right.
Cami is, as you know, is an extension that works with a specific file format.
Right, and that's how we do most of our sheets.
And so I was just showing you more globally related to sheets. If that's working for them, then that's fine. I'm very familiar with Cami, and sometimes it's copying and pasting that text and putting it into Google Translate. And
Right.
Cami has built-in OCR, which will recognize text, but not it does it well. It's getting better, but there are times when you will go to do text to speech and it will go 111111000 because of the way that PDF just happens to be, whether it was scanned or not. So sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't. It's all, again, back to how that original PDF was and how well Cami's OCR runs it.
Okay. Okay.
You could try it, but I'm if it's all in Cami. So there's that difference. There's baked into the device, but then there's features that are within extensions that also work really well, which is a good point. Back to our resources that we have, and there is an extension resource that we'll share too. There's a video series from Google that actually does what I just did, so you can watch those at your leisure. I also created what I just did in a Wakelet of screen sharing, the accessibility features, how to turn them on, how to turn them off, how to get the voices. They're very short. And then if you don't like video and you like to read, there is the whole Chromebook for education accessibility features, and there's both text and video. I'm just showing you like in a global thing. So, you know, PDFs are tricky. PDFs are pesky, and they're not always accessible. And I know a lot of curriculum companies love them, and because they like.
I was just thinking
not a fan,
using it within the system that you just shared with us. I mean, they were literally taking the sheets, copying, pasting, and translating. And I was just trying to make it easier with what you shared with us.
If you change the device language, and I haven't tried this yet, but you could try it. If you change the device language itself, maybe it would change that particular. And I don't know that. I haven't tested that yet, but if you change the overall device to Spanish, it might work. But I don't know that. I would have to try that. I could do that and give that feedback to Catherine, so you don't have to try it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Another tool is HelperBird. We've done some training on that. That works for, it's an extension, doc slides and sheets. It does do some PDF work too. I like Cami for different reasons because of the flex. It's got a lot of cool features and they're improving, and they have Lexen font. And they have the built-in OCR, so it makes things more accessible. And that's also in your tech folder. There's some information on that for you as well.
I saw that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to have options and choices. Don't want to overwhelm you with all of them, but it's important for you to have a working understanding. Oh, there are accessibility features in my Chromebook. And oh, there are extensions. Which tool or feature is going to match the goal of the task? That's the decision making you can make, and that's the decision making we can give our kids as well. Sometimes we're so conditioned to like the one way of having to do it, or the one tool, or we don't have to do that. And that's kind of where I was saying to you, like, it's not one or, it could be both, you know? So I know we're running on 3:15. I want to be mindful and respectful of everybody's time. The evaluation link is right on the slide, and Catherine posted it in the chat. The work that you guys do matters. I hope you know that. And I hope that you are rested and rejuvenated and recharged and find moments of joy for what you do. Education matters. The work you do matters. And I hope that you know, even though we don't know each other personally, I feel that you matter, and the work that you do is super, super important, because you have the best job, and that is cultivating the minds of children. So thank you very much for your time, your energy, and all of the things that you do. And if you have questions, reach out to Catherine and I, and we will be happy to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put my email, as I said, I'm going to be working, and Hillary is too, to support teachers this year. So we're going to be in and around Salinas. In fact, I'm going to be in Salinas next week. So feel free to contact us. We're here for you guys. And I just want to echo what Hillary said. We really are grateful for everything you're doing.